Have you ever ridden in such bad conditions that no matter what you try, be that anti-fog spray, pin lock, cracking all your vents open, your visor still somehow fogs up? It can start to feel pretty sketchy pretty quickly when all you can see in front of you is your own breath. That's basically the problem that this product attempts to solve. This heated visor insert from Visin is built to keep your lid mist-free, even in the most extreme circumstances. So in this video, I'm going to show you what's in the box, how to install it, and also take it out for a spin to give you my first impressions. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Visin for supporting the channel and sponsoring this video. Naturally, this won't be a hyper-critical review of the product, but more so an overview of how it works and my first impressions of it. If you like what you see, there's a link in the description where you can find out more, as well as pick one up for yourself. So let's have a little look at what you get in the box. This is the battery pack with the control unit, and this is the heated insert that sticks to the inside of the visor on your helmet. So inside this box with the battery pack, you can see I've got the black one. I think it comes in a couple of different colors. There's more like an off-white as well. There we go, have a decent look at that. And that's got a cable on the top, which you of course run to the visor once you've got it all hooked up. But if you want to store it maybe somewhere a little more discreet than in your pocket, then there's also a bit of an extension that will make it a little longer. And then here we've got a USB cable for actually charging this up, and you can charge it with the USB port on the top there. Now these connectors for the visor and the extension appear to screw together, so I guess they're probably waterproof, and that'll mean you can run them kind of externally, but it looks like because of the port on the top there, I guess this probably isn't, and so you'll be wanting to stash that somewhere a little more weatherproof. Now as for the box with the visor in, well of course you'll want to be fairly careful with this one when you open it up. That's the visor itself, but also we've got a template for getting it fitted, some lens wipes for cleaning the inside of the visor to make sure it sticks properly, along with the instruction book. Next up, I'll give you a quick demo of how to install it, although I will say there's an excellent install video on the Visin website, and so if you want to do it by the book and get it straight from the horse's mouth, then I'd recommend watching that as well. Today, I'm gonna put it on this Premier Discovery. I think this is the sort of helmet I'd probably be wearing if I was riding out in worse conditions. It's the sort of bike as well, adventure touring style helmet. But also, when I first got it, I put the mirror visor straight on. It must have been summer. And that means I've got a brand spanking new clear visor ready to go in the pack, so that seems like a decent starting point. If you were using an existing helmet and visor though, then probably it'd be a good idea to take the visor off and give it a really good clean, especially if it's properly grimy. You might want to rinse it with warm soapy water and then finish off the inside by making sure it's absolutely clean using these Zeiss lens wipes, 2 of which are included in the pack. I use these all the time I've got like a big job lot of them for cleaning cameras and screens and things like that. They're really very good. But of course, using this on the surface that you're going to stick the heated visor insert into will mean that there's no grease or anything like that that's going to limit the adhesion. So yeah, thorough clean, a good wipe with the alcohol wipes, and then let it properly dry. Next up, I'm just going to remove this original tinted visor, stick this new one on. And that's going to mean that you can use some of the features along the front of the helmet here to get this sticker lined up. This is going to be a guide in terms of getting the template in the right place and also subsequently the visor in the right place when you stick it on the back. And then basically you've got this red line up here which needs to go above the rubber gasket, trying to center it on some of the features here. I've left the visor off the top because I think that would have actually made it a bit more difficult. And again, we've got the little vents where I can line this up and make sure it's bang in the middle. Then we've got the template, and it's got some little notches, a V at the top and the bottom, a window in the middle, so you can line these up with the red line down the middle of the visor, and you just put a couple of sticky patches either side to hold it in place. The height of it as well, you can see these blue lines here. The top is probably for sports bikes realistically. The bottom for something a bit more sat up like a dirt bike, well, there is a little bit personal preference, but you want to hold steady and make sure that those two V's line up with that red line, the window in the middle as well, and I'll probably put it somewhere around the middle with this being an adventure style helmet. Now this might seem like overkill because of course you could just stick it on the back of the visor and hope for the best, but I find with some products where you're just left to just do it by eye, quite often it comes out a bit wonky, and especially because you're looking through it, so you want to make sure there's nothing obstructing your field of view. Yeah, I'd rather have it this way, that's a little bit precise, and go through this procedure just to get it right, because you're only realistically going to need to do it once. In fact, I definitely should add, that's something I read on the website, you can't peel it off and re-stick it. So if you wanted to, you know, move position, you'd effectively have to buy a new visor insert. So that's probably another reason why they want you to get it absolutely right. So back off with the visor. And now you can take a little look at how you're going to get this lined up inside the visor. Now it is built to bend a little bit, of course, but they do say don't bend it to extremes because that might damage it. But once you've got it inside the visor here, you can see how, again, there are V-shaped markers that have to line up with the red line down the middle. And you also want to get the rest of the visor nicely lined up with that template. So once you've had a couple of dry runs, it's time to peel off this white adhesive back in. And then naturally you're going to work from the middle, try and get that absolutely perfect, because once you start to smooth it from there, any misalignment's going to follow. And then you just want to smooth it out and try and make sure that you're getting a really good adhesion there in either direction. Generally, I'd say I'm not the most patient person, and I don't have the best form with decals and stickers and stuff like that. I do tend to just slap them on. But I gotta say, with this process, I've actually got that not bad. Naturally, getting a really good seal is what's gonna make this product effective. So you do wanna really make sure you've pressed it down there. And they do say, once you've had a bit of a go at it, you can take these templates off the front, and that's going to give you some idea as to where you might have some air bubbles. So work your way around and really try to squeeze out as many as possible. And in the installation guide, it also says, you know, if this is a brand new visor, it may help to keep coming back to it and checking it for a few days and just repeating this process just to really make sure you've got a proper good seal. It seems like quite a bit of pressure is needed to get some of the bigger air bubbles out, but once you've got those templates off, it's really easy to see and work your way around. Then, of course, post the cables inside the helmet, and that means you can reattach your visor, and then you can have a bit of a look at where you might want to run these cables. So you might need to remove a bit of the padding inside the lid and figure out where you want the cable to come out, but you should be able to find a reasonably neat way to route them. So yeah, fairly neatly done there, if I do say so myself, coming out the back, but of course leaving enough slack on the cables here to make sure that you can easily open and close the visor without tugging on those cables and damaging the connections up here. But it's looking good. Last thing to do is take out the protective film on the inside. Stick the old dad bike beak back on there and we're good to go.
So let's take a little urban spin, because I find when you're at these lower speeds, that's when it can really get challenging, and it's not, you know, the harshest of conditions, but I will say it's December and it is pretty crisp today. Unfortunately, I don't think I've got an ambient temperature reading on this bike, being a bit old school, but from looking at the weather today, it's in the low single digits. And I guess what I was kind of thinking about this product is, well, why not just use a pin lock, which is of course quite a bit cheaper and also a little bit simpler as well. But really, if you're running the Visin system without the battery switched on, that's effectively what you've got, a little double glazing panel on the inside of the visor. And I'll say this, already pottering around at these sorts of speeds, with this sort of temperature, with your visor shut as well, it's already getting quite misty. I don't know if you can see that, but certainly my view isn't great, and it's only going to get worse the longer I'm on the bike for. Then your only options really are to either crack your visor open, which can be quite cold in these conditions, and it's a little bit annoying as well to constantly have to flip your visor up and down when you come to a stop. Or I used to do this a lot commuting in city traffic, just kind of hold your breath when you've stopped, and then when you get a little bit of airflow when you pick up speed again, you hope it just clears. Like I say, I'm getting quite misted up here. It'd be even worse if it didn't just have this kind of passive double glazed layer. But yeah, I've got the battery pack in my pocket with that nice big button. Give it a press and it vibrates as it switches on, and hopefully now it won't be long before I've got full visibility back. Gosh, I've got to say that's impressive. It's been less than a minute and already it's nice and clear, and it feels a little bit unusual to be able to just talk in my helmet like this and breathe freely with the vent shut, with the visor down, and not even get a little jot of mist or damp breath in front of me. In fact, even if you go a nice big breath, nothing. This is a game changer. Nothing. I am loving this. And look, it's not the most challenging ride, but occasionally I've had to pick up press bikes a couple of hours away, you know, halfway across the country. So I'm sure on some of those grim rides where you really want to be able to see when the roads are not particularly grippy as well, I'm definitely going to be reaching for this lid now, and it'll make me feel so much more confident, I reckon, going into rides like that. Now in the sort of always on mode, which is constantly, you know, keeping the visor warm, you'll get 8 hours on a charge, or you've got a boost mode, which they say can clear it quickly. It switches on for 40 seconds. But look, I think that 8-hour always on setting should be enough for most people's riding schedules, and if you're doing more than that in a day, then I'll probably consider that to be a fairly extreme use case. I guess if you were doing some kind of bonkers endurance event, you could always pack another battery pack or take a power bank with you, or charge it, you know, when you're stopping off for a coffee or whatever. But yeah, for me, 8 hours would be fine. And actually, if you were commuting, you know, an hour each way, 4 days a week, that's a week's worth of usage. I'm really trying to get it to mist up, but it's having none of it. Well. That's impressive. In fact, you can probably see I'm misted up all the way around the edges of the visor, but not in the middle for some reason. And that is kind of ideal, because that's where I'm looking through.
Now, if you've got one of the big name helmet brands like Shoei, Arai, Schubert, and Climb as well, I think if you look on the website for Visin, you'll see that there are some dedicated visor inserts for some of their key models that are built to maximize the field of view in those specific lids. The one that I've used though, well, that's kind of a universal fit, and there are a few different styles. And so while you might not get the same full advantage of a large visor, you know, there should be something that's a reasonably good fit for pretty much most helmets. Now, if you're not quite sure which one's gonna fit best, then perhaps drop their supporter line through the website. I'm sure they'll be happy to help. And I should also point out, you can buy the battery packs and visors independently. So if you did want to have multiple visor inserts on multiple different helmets, you could do that and just have the one battery pack and plug it into the helmet that you're using on that particular day, assuming you don't wear more than one lid at once. Prices start from £45 in the UK just for the visor itself, with a few of the larger visors costing £60. Package that in with the battery and it'll start from £179.95, and separately you can purchase the additional battery packs for £135. Now on the one hand, it's not an insignificant purchase, and so if you mainly ride in the summer and pack your bike away for the winter months, then realistically you're probably not going to get 180 quid's worth of value from it. But for those who commute each way by bike all through the winter, I think you can easily start to justify the cost for the ability to see clearly, whatever the weather, especially when it's dark when visibility is already reduced. Then I'd also say if you're touring and you're really keen on touring and you ride to less than ideal climates and you do it year round, then it's also, I think, going to look pretty tempting as well. And if you've ever had one of those rides in really challenging conditions where it gets very sketchy with terrible visibility, then I think the appeal of a product like this will be obvious. I've certainly been impressed with it so far, so I'm going to leave it in this lid for the rest of the winter. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to some mist-free miles this year. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of it, so do let me know down in the comments below. And also, don't forget to check out the links in the description if you fancy picking one up. Hit subscribe as well if you want to see more of the latest motorcycle tech like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.